I was recently doing a study on Singapore, and there I had one person who come and said, she was an advisor to Singapore government. She said, policy is implementation and implementation is policy. In India, we get away by saying that, oh, it's a great policy, but the implementation is bad. So this is the thought for us to see how Singapore in 60 years has gone on from being a swamp, a malarial swamp, to being a global economic hub. And if we see that Hyderabad or Bangalore are competing with each other, and that's all, they are the fast runners and every other city is of inconsequence, we will end up becoming a nation of laggards, where we'll grow only at a small percentage but not really to our true potential. And that's where we need statesmen today, not electoral managers. So rigging elections should not be the only reason why you become a leader. You should be able to see the great potential that exists in the country.
How much funding does public policy schools require? Are they right now? Do they get enough funding, or is there a shortage of funds?
What we should understand is that the Indian educational institutions have traditionally been teaching institutions. But excellence cannot be achieved only by becoming teaching institutions. Excellence can be achieved by becoming research and teaching institutions, right? And that's where setting up good public policy institution takes a lot of money. One thing that I will always encourage is that look at a multi-year support whenever you do for any particular program, because often this is not an instantaneous Maggie noodles kind of a thing wherein you say, okay, here is some money, get me the results immediately. Things don't happen like that in public policy and political governance space. Things take a lot of time. For example, I've been involved in the area of open governance, Right to Information Act for the last 15 years. We have won some battles, we have lost some battles. But every time we have won battle, it has been automatically influencing across the country. So we did RTI awareness assessment study in 2008, where we studied across India what is the status of RTI. And we got some very startling results. So we went back and worked with the Information Commission and said, here are the changes that you could make. Many positive changes came. And as you all know what are happening, many political parties are pushing back the RTI Act. So those kind of battles continue to keep happening. So we can talk about various issues, we can talk about various ways of getting included. And I welcome the thought that you are saying that you would like to support public policy.
Sir, can research be done through these public policy schools on particular topics?
Yes, they can be done. And for example, we are very much committed on open governance. We are committed on future of public service delivery, right? Even starting from ration shop to getting your online khata transfer or your birth certificate or death certificate, we still have challenges in many parts of the society that it's not equitable. So how can you make them equitable? These are the kind of research that are ongoing with us.
Shmuel, will you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, firstly, very interesting presentation. And I want to ask you next question. How, according to your opinion, the manifestos battle between different parties can support resolution problems of poverty and reduction social and economic disparities?
Yeah, thank you, Shmuel. We should understand that, as I earlier alluded, just transferring money will not help us get away from poverty, right? That will only increase inflation for all of us. But what is important is that public service delivery should improve significantly in India. The You should have the government schools, colleges, all of them functioning better and providing greater education. You should have the public health institutions function very well. You should have public transport affordable and available across the city as much as possible. So a great deal of investments have to go into health, education, mobility, skill development, and jobs, right? These whole 5 things are very important if you have to have a better fight against poverty that is troubling all of us in India. What has also worked in states like Karnataka, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi, and others is a whole lot of knowledge-based economy. When I say knowledge-based economy, I'm talking about IT, biotechnology, BT, and all of them, right? So these knowledge-intensive industries are giving a lot of jobs. They are giving secondary jobs as well. That is far more easier for India to do and become global players. We have seen that over the last 40 years, the dynamism that the Indian IT and BT have shown. The second thing is also a whole lot of manufacturing needs to be improved in India. And until unless we grow up both in the services and manufacturing sector, the formal jobs in India do not improve. So our formal employment rates have to improve in India, because once you have formal employment jobs, then you have higher salaries, higher social security, right? So that is also very important, right? Getting into formal sector is also very important. Our productivity has to improve in the agriculture sector, but those are very complex issues, Shmuel. But I think for us, these 5 things, education, healthcare, public service delivery, skills, and jobs, right? All of them have to improve. And once we have long-standing commitment by political parties to make sure that these are done, that's far better than SOPs, is my belief. And we are a minority who believe that the direct cash transfer is not sufficient. It is good, but it's not sufficient. So that's where we stand, Shmuel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next question is from Mr. R.V. Reddy. Somehow the sarpanches around the capital city seem to have a great source of funds. They travel in high-end SUVs. How is this possible?
And my second question also relates to the money. How to educate the voter not to vote based on the money but on policy. So basically my question is about money.
Yeah. So again, 2 parts to this question, Mr. Reddy. We should understand that in the way where we are transitioning in our economy, right? A whole lot of migrant population are there in the cities. A whole lot of poor exist in the city where hand-to-mouth existence is a reality. For them, if you go and tell them that, why should you look at a policy of a government instead of the 2,000 rupees that somebody would have given him in an envelope, it's very difficult for him to make a rational choice around. We should also understand their lifestyles are different. But when I contested for elections, one of my smart campaign managers did a very, very interesting campaign. Whenever he would go into low-income communities and start talking about it, Mr. Reddy, whatever the question was you asked was what he was being asked, telling that kitna denge aapke candidate, and he would say, do you want one-time biryani or do you want lifetime biryani, right? Because we are talking about Telangana elections and can't be without biryani, right? So that 2,000 rupees or 1,000 rupees that a family gets is actually spent on an overnight. But if we invest in all the things that I mentioned in the past, these are the things that will help every family become financially stable, feel secure, right? Today, a greatest source of poverty in India for people who have just got out of poverty, they go back into poverty either because there's a wedding in the family, there's a death in the family, the higher education fees, the healthcare emergencies. All of them should not be catastrophic events in a human being's life. Every family in the world goes through these events, but the better governed nations will have some form of social security and public service delivery so that this does not pull them back into poverty, right? So that's point number 1. Point number 2 about SUVs and all of it. We all know that the real wealth of India is actually locked in the land, and the land that is getting urbanized. And it's unfortunate that even to this day, land holding is the biggest risky thing that anybody can do. And I think I remember about earlier this year, quite a few people who had land got murdered around Hyderabad area. And I was like, why, right? I mean, and it ended up being about one parcel of land, of prime land being around, right? So these are challenges that confront us. The political economy around real estate is very powerful. It's unfortunate, but this is something that hopefully we'll get over in the coming years. In many ways, Hyderabad has been a better planned city with the outer ring road coming in there. Right, the ring road is a lifesaver for Hyderabad because the land market has really grown bigger than many other cities where the land market has not grown bigger because of various policy failures. It's important that we help people who have land to understand the long-term value of land and not really short sell their land and become part of this whole urbanization process. But this is very theoretical idea, but in practicality we all have heard of people having land and going through many difficulties, right? So that's a whole set of reforms that have to be done in Indian real estate sector as well as Indian agriculture sector.
Sridhar, I wanted to add something here.
Yes, please.
Land around the capital cities are becoming very expensive.
Right.
There is Dharani, which very good that the Telangana government has bought it. There are online platforms like you can put an FIR in the online with the police station. But yet the nexus of the local sarpanch, the police, the local MLA, the local SP and the judiciary. Unfortunately, now the judiciary has also joined the bandwagon. This reason that the local sarpanches are now in a position to go in SUVs. A simple small election is also making them collect hundreds of crores because of the growth of real estate prices. Simply ensuring Dharani is perfectly functioning, simply ensuring that your FIR system is perfectly functioning will clean up the whole system. But it looks like the government's business is not governing but real estate. And what alternative do you have? Because both parties, whether it is this party or that party, both parties are engaged in real estate as a personal business. So what is the solution, Sridhar Garu? And Reddy Garu, please unmute yourself. Have I articulated your question more with more clarity? Please unmute.
As far as Hyderabad is concerned, the real estate is really booming. No way we can stop this for some time. But to educate the voter is the most important thing, to make him rise above allurement of money in the long-term perspective.
But isn't that the whole nexus? The voter wants money. The voter wants cash for money. I'm not saying it's a chicken. I'm saying it's a chicken and egg situation. You can't blame the political party. They need money to pay the voter. To pay the voter, today every constituency head is given a target. You collect so much through land. Because the landowners are probably 1%, 2%, 10%. But the majority of the people are the people who are voting. So this next, to educate the voters, the landowner ownership is with a minority. Majority people want vote for money for a vote. What is the solution? I mean, it's very clear. You're saying let's educate the masses. But when there is this kind of a situation, the solution I am seeing is get transparency in Dharani, get transparency in police FIR. This policy change, like Sridhar Garu is saying, we have worked on RTI, we have worked on this, and this has made an impact across the country. If we can clear up the Dharani issues, if we can clear up the FIR issues, immediately this chicken and egg situation will get constrained at some point. See, today all political parties are forced to collect money to pay the voters. Now, is it the voters' fault? Is it the political party's fault? You can't blame either of them. But we are in a vicious circle. Somewhere, the only solution that I am seeing is to work on public policy, to work, like Mr. Sridhar said, that, hey, let's work on ensuring there is more transparency in RERA. Let's work on more transparency in Dharani. Let's work on more transparency in the way the online platforms of the police are working. Let's get more transparency in the judiciary. This is the only solution that I am seeing which can ensure that there is a paucity of funds for the political parties to cut this vicious circle of money for vote. What do you say, Sridhar?
So, Shivani Garu, there's a very important thing for us to learn in this political economy question is saying that as a city, as a state, whom do we see as competition? Right? We all understand competition starting from a child to the deathbed. There is some or the other competition going on in our lives. But if you look at city and state level ecosystems, whom are we competing against? I was recently doing a study on Singapore, and there I had one person who come and said, she was an advisor to Singapore government. She said, policy is implementation and implementation is policy. In India, we get away by saying that, oh, it's a great policy, but the implementation is bad. So this is the thought for us to see how Singapore in 60 years has gone on from being a swamp, a malarial swamp, to being a global economic hub. And if we see that Hyderabad or Bangalore are competing with each other and that's all, they are the fast runners and every other city is of inconsequence, we will end up becoming a nation of laggards, where we'll grow only at a small percentage but not really to our true potential. And that's where we need statesmen today, not electoral managers. So rigging elections should not be the only reason why you become a leader. You should be able to see the great potential that exists in the country and try and say that we are actually performing very, very badly. If we can challenge ourselves and say, what is this that has happened? I was at a book launch yesterday where I spoke to some of the best minds in Bangalore. And one person said, in the 60s, Singapore said, we would like to be like Kolkata, right? And in the 2000, Bengaluru said, we want to be like Singapore, right? We all have to go back and see, we all wanted to do something, how well have we done it, right? So understanding that getting great minds, getting a lot of capital are both important for our cities, our state and the nation. Only if we are worried about these two things is when we will have much more reliable growth, much more reliable wellness for all of us in the future, as compared to cutting the existing pizza into much smaller pieces. The existing small pizza is not enough. We need a larger pizza. We'll become a larger pizza only if we compete with Singapore, only if we compete with New York, only if we compete with the Silicon Valley, not if we compete to be worse than other cities of the country. So our competition is not local, our competition is global. Our challenges are also very huge. We have the highest young population in the world. This is called as the demographic dividend. If we don't play up to our full potential, and thankfully if we play up to our full potential, we will avoid a demographic disaster. But if we don't do that, as you are saying, these kind of self-limiting self-goals will result in us becoming a demographic disaster. So I urge all of you in your individual capacities and in your collective capacities to go and influence everybody in all this ecosystem, a bureaucrat, a judicial officer, a political leader, and everybody around us to focus on saying that don't lower your expectations. Have high ambitions. The challenge is that big, right? We have seen what has happened in Pakistan around us. The lack of imagination of what should you be in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years has resulted in them becoming dependent on foreign funders to even pay their bills. We should still understand we are a net importing country. If we did not get Russian oil, then India would have been in a deep, deep economic mess. So we are a vulnerable nation. We are a nation with a lot of population. And unless we deploy all that population in the right sectors, we will not have a secure future. Yeah. So that's my thing. I mean, we have serious lack of statesmanship in the country, and at the state and at the cities, where they are not really taking those big problems, big ambition, and saying that what are India-size goals for us to establish.
I wanted to club what you are saying and what Reddy Garu is. Reddy Garu is saying that the real estate in Hyderabad is very good and it will carry on. But it is an artificial, it is a supported by the local political party. Today, the entire country in real estate is not taking black money. Only Hyderabad is taking.
Oh, not really, right? I mean,
not in the percentages.
Right,
Percentages are very different when it is compared to other states versus. Now, why am I saying this? Andhra and Telangana are net importers. Today, how much of production the truck comes to Hyderabad or to Telangana or to Andhra? Is it going back empty? 30% of the trucks are going out of Telangana and Andhra empty. And this is not the situation with Maharashtra. This is not the situation with Tamil Nadu. This is not the situation with Karnataka. But this is the situation with Bengal. This is the situation with Bihar. This is the situation with Kashmir. And unfortunately, though the Andhrites and Telanganites think that we are a booming society, we are doing extremely well, we are at par in them in our production. And this should be a part of our manifesto. This has to be discussed, and this is not being discussed.
Yeah. So fuller employment, right? Not just employment for the sake of employment or underemployment are both dangers that will trouble us, right? So how fast do we get into higher economic efficiency is a goal for all states to pursue, right? You have flagged some metrics of how to look at it, but I still see as a nation, our efficiency journeys are still suboptimal. And we need to now set ourselves towards greater benchmarks and say, how do we measure ourselves? What is our 10, 20, 30-year trajectories of becoming globally competitive? We as a nation cannot become net importers. It will only make us more and more vulnerable, right? So that is very important for all of us to put our heads together, work at various levels, and understand that these are all many barriers. The black money, the thriving real estate that is not really channelized for greater well-being for everyone. All of these has to be tackled across the nation, and then we will grow at our full potential.
So there is a question from Ms. Nisha Magwani. Also, it is a vicious cycle. If you are not getting the promises fulfilled anyway since years, why not get that money at least for a vote?
No, I mean, as I said, it's a short-term solution, right? I mean, we can. So as we were saying in the previous question, our goal is to say the statesmen should set higher goals. I'll also say that the voter also should set higher expectations, right? Well, short-termish, yeah, you may take money, you will be well off for 1 month or a few days, but it's not going to change your fortunes forever. So engage in that conversation of saying that how can your political leader be someone who will enable you. And we have seen this happen years after years, right? We have seen some great leaders in our own country who have put emphasis on education, who put emphasis on primary education, who have put emphasis on midday meal scheme, who have put emphasis on better healthcare, right? We have seen benefits of all of this touch us for a long period of time. Yes, okay, it's a cheeky single, but the ask is 36 runs per over. So you can only take 6 cheeky singles and take 6 runs, but you will not win the match. So please focus on that, and that's something for all of us to keep reminding ourselves that cheeky singles will only get 6 runs, but you need 36 runs.